Mysteries of the Sacred Universe, Chapter 2, The Oceans and Islands of Bhu-mandala.
Hello there. This video was inspired by a presentation given by Krishna Kripa Das on Chapter 2 of Sadaputa Das's book, Mysteries of the Sacred Universe, the Cosmology of the Bhagavat Purana. Krishna Kripa Das got his BA in Computer Science at Brown University in the United States.
He joined the Bhaktivinoda Institute in 1988 and then worked with Sadaputa Das for 17 years, helping to edit his books and media presentations. So let's explore Chapter 2 of the book. The fifth canto of the Bhagavat Purana describes Bhu-mandala in some detail, translated as the circle of the earth. It is a series of huge concentric circles with alternative realms of 7 inner dvipas, islands, each surrounded by different types of oceans. At the centre of Bhu-mandala is the island of Jambudvip. In the chapter, Sadaputa shows a comparative study of the various descriptions across the ancient scriptures. This table summarises the different versions of Bhu-mandala as described in the various Puranas and the Siddhanta Shiromani. In short, it shows that they describe similar things, but the sequence of Bhu-mandala's concentric rings, as well as other details, do differ slightly. Most complete is the fifth canto of the Bhagavat Purana. There have been historical attempts to place the dvipas on Earth, like the Indologist Francis Wilford, who stacked them as different climate zones in the northern hemisphere. Others have placed them in the southern. In terms of the classical itihasas, histories, the dvipas are mentioned in the Mahabharata. However, they are not described as concentric rings like in the Puranas. This approach has led to attempts to identify the 7 dvipas as the continents. But note that in the 13th century, the great Madhvacharya wrote in his Mahabharata Puraniya Naya, although these works are really indestructible, they must be deemed to be mostly altered. Most of them have disappeared, and now not even one crore exists. The Ramayana also mentions place names that appear in Bhu-mandala, such as Samalidvip, the Milk Ocean, and Krauncha Mountain. For example, thereafter on reaching Mount Krauncha, you shall cautiously enter into a highly impassable tunnel of that mountain to search for Sita. That tunnel, they say, is an unenterable one. So there are earthly geographical references to the context of Sugriva's armies and their search for Sita. Yet, like the Mahabharata, Bhu-mandala's concentric circles are not mentioned in the Ramayana, and at a standard 8 miles per yojana, the rings are millions of miles in scale, which includes the sun. Taking that into consideration, the dvipas are far enough away to be like islands in space, like planets. In the beginning of the 5th canto of the Bhagavat Purana, it explains that the powerful Maharaj Priyarata had a effulgent vimana that resembled the sun. Its movements created grooves or indentations which later became the 7 dvipas of Bhu-mandala. Those realms, each with their own 7 continents, were then inhabited and ruled by Priyavrata's cultured sons and other descendants. Each dvipa has its own distinct features, as follows. There's Plakshadvip with a huge tree surrounded by sacred flames. They live like demigods, and it is surrounded by an ocean of sugarcane juice. Samanidvip, Garuda lives in the huge tree there, and the inhabitants worship the moon god. It is surrounded by an ocean of liquor. Beyond that is Kushadvip. The Kushadraft there was created by the demigods by the will of the Supreme Lord. It appears like a second form of fire, but with very mild and pleasing flames. This realm is surrounded by an ocean of ghee. Beyond that is Kraunchadvip. The vegetables living on the slopes of Mount Krauncha there were devastated by the weapons of Kartikeya. The mountain is always bathed on all sides by the ocean of milk and protected by Varunadev. Then Sakadvip. There's a huge Saka tea tree there with a delightful fragrance, surrounded by an ocean of churned yogurt. Pushkaradvip follows. There is a great lotus flower with innumerable pure golden petals, like flames of fire. That lotus flower is considered the sitting place for Lord Brahma. The dvipa is surrounded by an ocean of sweet water. The rings beyond that, getting much further out, include inhabited lands, the Golden Land and the Lokavash, a dark place. In Chapter 4 of Mysteries of the Sacred Universe, Sadaputa makes a convincing argument that Bhu-mandala's rings represent the solar system from an Earth-centered point of view, rather than Sun-centered. Such a view results in the planets moving in epicycles, like the figure on the right. More about that in another video. So if Bhu-mandala does include a solar system model, where are the dvipas and exotic oceans supposed to be? Well, I think it's possible that they're on higher planes in the universe, but somehow connected to places in the solar system. Anyway, after the rings of Bhu-mandala, Chapter 2 describes the island of Jambudvip, which sits at its centre. Within an ocean of salt water, it includes symmetrical series of mountain ranges and regions in between, and the huge Mount Meru at its centre. Many artists, historical and more contemporary, have depicted it in various ways. Here's a few samples. The Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata describes a circular island called Sudarshana, which is very similar to the Puranic Jambudvip. I discuss the various meanings of Jambudvip in some of my other videos on my channel. The Bhagavatam's 5th canto describes 4 cities of the demigods situated on the Manasatara mountain in Bhu-mandala, placed at the cardinal directions. These cities are connected to a larger system of directional demigods, and these in turn connected with the Indian system architecture known as Vastu Sastra. And the cities of the 8 Lokapalas are situated at the top of Mount Meru. In the Vastu Sastras, the layout of a temple is based on a grid of squares, called the Vastu Purusha Mandala. The entire grid resembles the top of Mount Meru, which has Lord Brahma's township at the centre. There's a connection between the Vastu Purusha Mandala and the ecliptic. The ecliptic is the path of the sun against a background of stars, and in Indian astronomy it is marked by 27 or 28 constellations called the Nakshastras. Note that the Earth disk, Bhu-mandala, is the ecliptic plane. The Australian architect and scholar Adrian Snodgrass points out that elaborate astronomical symbolism was built into the Temple of Angkor Wat in Cambodia. It incorporates at least 22 significant alignments to the equinoxes and solstice solar risings. He also lists astronomical quantities that were built into Angkor Wat. For example, the interior lengths of the 9 chambers in the central tower are 27 on east-west and 28 on the north-south axis. This refers to the 28 Nakshastra stars and to the 28 days of a month. And note that when we view the temple complex from the air, it resembles the island of Jambudvip. Interesting. So, thanks for watching, and look out for the next video in this series.